The rain didn't just fall, it pressed down. Heavy, relentless. Like grief that refused to be forgotten. I stepped out of the car and opened the umbrella. My mother, Verlaine, hesitated. She always moved as if the world owed her a cleared path. I held the umbrella above her, shielding both of us, though not from the storm that had started long before we arrived. The law office loomed ahead, its brick facade blurred behind streaks of rain. I could feel her gaze flick toward me, cool, unreadable. No thanks, no warmth, just silence. As I helped her out, her hand trembled slightly on mine, but she quickly withdrew. That small gesture said more than words ever could. We were blood, but not family. Have you ever stood beside someone and still felt utterly alone? Inside the glass doors, the receptionist barely looked up. Behind us, tires screeched. A sleek black SUV pulled up. Damon. Of course. He exited with the poise of someone who believed the world turned at his convenience. And beside him, Juno, polished, poised, possessive, her fingers laced tightly through his. He made no effort to hide it. The security guard smiled at them. Mr. and Mrs. Graves? I stood 5 feet away, invisible. He waved them through without asking for ID. When I stepped forward, he held up a hand. Sign in, please. I signed. My fingers shook just enough to betray me. Clint stood across the lobby, holding his phone like he was scrolling. He wasn't. He was filming. I saw the red light. I didn't react. Sylvia leaned in, whispered near my ear. Try not to embarrass yourself today. I didn't reply. Juno approached Verlaine, dripping honey. Let me help you, Mrs. Red. This weather's dreadful. Her tone sang with sweetness, but her eyes were razor blades. Verlaine smiled. Of course she did. Then I saw it around Juno's neck. A locket. Oval, silver, etched with faint initials. Grandma Agnes's. I hadn't seen it since last Christmas, before she fell ill. The chill inside me deepened. Not from the rain. Childhood memories cracked through like thunder. Sitting alone in school plays, waiting for a ride that never came. A birthday where the cake was untouched because no one showed up. I had learned early. Silence didn't protect you, it erased you. Damon leaned toward me just before we entered the elevator. You're in for a surprise today, he said. A whisper, close enough to stain. I said nothing. That was the only thing I'd ever said to survive. As we waited, my phone buzzed. One notification. One email. From Grandma Agnes. Subject, if they ever turn on you. Unread. I didn't open it. Not yet. Verlaine's purse slipped. A photo fluttered out, an old wedding picture, edges frayed. It hit the wet floor. A gust from the door sent it spinning toward the street. Neither of us moved to save it. I stared at the photo. The two of them, my mother and father, smiling beneath a white arch. But now it was soaked, blurred, gone. Like what they used to be. Like what I used to believe. The lobby door opened again. Thunder cracked. It echoed something inside me. You can leave now, a voice whispered. Just disappear. No one expects you to stay. Then another voice, softer, stronger. Strength isn't loud, baby. It's choosing to show up. Grandma. I took a slow breath and stepped through the metal detectors. Inside the waiting area, Juno's little boy peeked out from behind her legs, eyes wide, curious, frightened. He looked at me like I was the monster. I flinched. I knew that look. I'd worn it once. Verlaine sat, smoothing her coat. Damon whispered to Juno. Sylvia was fixing her lipstick. Clint checked his phone. It was all so rehearsed. I glanced again at the email. The subject line felt heavier now. What I left behind is for you. My hands went cold, but my spine straightened. Have you ever felt something shift inside you? Before the words were even spoken, the receptionist cleared her throat. Mara Ellison. Everyone turned. Damon smiled. That same smile. Calculated. Cruel. I stood. My knees didn't shake. Not this time. I walked forward, the echo of my heels slicing the room. The conference room was cold in a way no thermostat could fix. The table stretched longer than necessary, polished to a mirror sheen that only reflected the falseness in the room. I walked in behind Verlaine, and immediately felt it, the air tight with judgment. Damon sat with his arms crossed, Juno beside him, her hand casually brushing his sleeve. Sylvia adjusted her collar as if preparing for a spotlight. Clint leaned back like a man who had already won. They sat together, a wall dressed in expensive fabric and smug confidence. Verlaine took the chair to my left. Her hand trembled as it reached for her purse, but her face remained a mask. I chose not to sit immediately. I looked at every face first. Not one offered a real expression, just blank stares lined with disdain. Saul Whitmore entered like he owned the room. He didn't rush, didn't smile, just unfolded his papers with the precision of a surgeon. Thank you all for coming. We're here to read the will of Mrs. Agnes Ellison, whose wishes will be honored in full today. Verlaine exhaled, not relief, bracing. Juno leaned close to Damon, voice like silk. Smile for the camera. Her thumb tapped her phone, screen barely lit, and the soft sound of a recording app activated. I noticed. So did Sylvia, whose eyes met Clint's with a silent nod. Something was choreographed. Ever walked into a room and felt like the only thing they waited for was your collapse? Saul began reading through the perfunctory clauses, property details, burial preferences, donations to causes long forgotten. Damon tapped his fingers against the table. Juno yawned discreetly. Sylvia filed her nails. Clint scrolled his phone. Then Saul paused. This next section contains the designation of heir. The room shifted. Stillness became suction. Even the rain seemed to hold its breath. I closed my eyes for half a second, felt my heartbeat crawl up my throat. Saul's voice was firm. To my granddaughter, Mara Ellison, I leave the entirety of my estate, assets and possessions. She is the only one who never asked, only gave. Everything after that blurred. Juno's jaw slackened. Damon sat forward. Sylvia froze mid-motion. Clint muttered no damn way. It wasn't pride I felt. It wasn't even shock. It was silence. Deep, ringing silence, like something inside me was being rewritten. Damon's chair screeched backward. She twisted Grandma's mind, he shouted, his voice cracking the air. Manipulated her. Clint stood. She was never around, until the money showed up. Their voices doubled, then tripled, bouncing off the walls. Chaos. Juno lifted her phone. Oops, she said, too loudly tapping the screen. The display showed a draft email addressed to Agnes. If you delay again, we'll go public, family or not. Saul raised his hand but never raised his voice. Mrs. Ellison finalized the will 2 weeks before passing. With full mental clarity, her physician confirmed her soundness of mind, and we have documentation to support that. Verlaine gasped. She reached for the table but missed, stumbling slightly. I caught her, just barely, and for 1 second, she leaned into me. She didn't speak, didn't apologize, but she didn't pull away either. Saul opened a small black recorder and pressed play. Agnes's voice filled the room. To Damon, who thought charm could mask cruelty. To Juno, who smiled while stealing. To Sylvia, whose silence was the loudest betrayal. And Clint, who filmed when he should have stopped it. I saw you. Every layer, every mask. No one breathed. Sylvia's lipstick-stained lips quivered. Clint looked down. Juno's eyes darted. What would you do? Agnes's voice asked. If someone's final words shattered every lie in the room. No one answered. Clint lunged forward, grabbing for the will. Saul signaled, and a security guard from the hall stepped inside. You touch one more thing, Saul said evenly, and this reading ends with charges. Verlaine whispered, her voice threadbare. She always knew. I just didn't think she'd ever say it. Juno straightened, steel now showing. This will be contested. You'll all lose everything in court. Don't act like it's over. I said nothing. Not to her. Not to them. Inside me, everything spun. Years of silence, rejection, half-lies and half-truths colliding like glass. But I didn't gloat. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I breathed. A tear slipped down my cheek. It wasn't grief. It was release. It wasn't about the money, I whispered. It never was. Saul reached into his folder and slid an envelope across the table. Ms. Ellison, he said quietly, your grandmother left you one final instruction, to be read in private. Every pair of eyes followed the envelope. Is silence the most powerful form of resistance, or just the last line of defense? The hallway was quiet except for the soft hum of distant rain, still tapping the windows. Saul pressed the envelope into my hand without a word. I didn't thank him. I didn't need to. My fingers were already tracing the familiar script. Agnes's handwriting, clean and deliberate. I walked past the elevator and ducked into a small alcove near the stairwell. No cameras, no footsteps, just silence and the scent of lemon furniture polish. I broke the seal. Inside was a letter, yellowed at the edges like it had waited years for the right hour. Mara, it began. You never asked for anything. That's why you're the only one I could give everything to. My eyes didn't blur. My hands didn't shake. But something inside me stilled. You protected me, even when you knew I was flawed. You kept quiet during the scandal with the scholarship fund. I never forgot that. I did remember. I was 15. They had tried to paint her as a thief. But I knew better. I had stayed silent, not out of fear, but choice. Then came the truth. I saw everything. Every manipulation, every lie. I stayed quiet not because I was weak, but because silence is a ledger, and I was still counting. I paused. Silence isn't weakness. It's memory, longer than most people's morality. And then the part that hollowed my breath. There's one truth no one knows, not even your mother. I folded the letter slowly, as if it might crumble. I tucked it inside my coat and returned to the room with my jaw set. Not tight, but sure. Damon stood hunched with Sylvia, their voices sharp but hushed. Verlaine sat back down. Saul glanced at me, eyes asking a question he didn't voice. Sylvia stepped forward. Before this farce continues, I think it's time we tell the truth, she said, loud enough for the room. Clint joined her. She's not even one of us. Mara's adopted. Agnes was duped. Damon nodded, eager. There's no blood tie. This will can't stand. Saul didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out a document. This is a certified record. Mara was legally adopted, yes. But she's also Agnes Ellison's biological granddaughter, through her estranged son. Agnes knew, and it's why reconciliation was even attempted. The room cracked. Verlaine's face turned white. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Her past had just reached up and wrapped around her. Juno whispered something to Damon. I heard it. She didn't know. None of them did. I turned calm. Speak up, I said. Your lies don't hold weight anymore. And just like that, the air shifted. Not with rage, but with gravity. Everything they'd built on control began to tip. I walked to the table, opened my bag, and placed a document down. This is the Agnes Ellison Fund, I said. Every cent of the estate goes to support women silenced by their own families. Damon's laugh was sharp. So now you're a saint. No, I said, but you thought the inheritance was the victory. You were wrong. Verlaine wiped her face, mascara smudging. Agnes knew what she was doing, she whispered. Clint left first. No words. Just the shuffle of expensive shoes. Sylvia followed, but her eyes didn't lift from the floor. Juno lingered. He fooled me too, she said, voice thin. Saul confirmed the fund's protection. Legally sealed. No one can contest. I left as local news vans rolled up outside. They would ask questions. They always do. But I was done answering for others. That night, I brewed tea the way Agnes liked, black, no sugar. Then I saw it. Another envelope. Small. Cream-colored. Marked only. For Willow Creek. I took it to the kitchen. Opened it. Inside was a hand-drawn map, a brass key, and 3 lines. You were never meant to survive this world. You were meant to rebuild it. Start where I did, Willow Creek. I visited her grave before midnight. Left a white lily. Didn't say much. Back at home, the map lay open on the counter. The key glinted under the light. I didn't speak to Agnes. I didn't curse Damon. I didn't cry. I whispered to the quiet that once held me hostage. It's over now, and it begins again.